Hello everyone. It's been a while, but I made Dr. Javier Carreño, watch another anime. This time it's yours favorite, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. And I'm glad that Javier actually liked it. Did you?
It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn of an anime. Doesn't You don't quite get it the first few episodes. Only afterwards that it gets good. And wow, really good.
Yeah, I already made a really short video about how Frieren is Christian or even Catholic, in the sense that in a way that it presents evil and fighting evil.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's been took down again for the second time for copyright issues, but maybe I will re-upload it before I publish this conversation so that they go in tandem in a way.
Good
Um,
idea.
but let's start with like what the series is about, and let's start with the premise. So the premise of Frieren is that it starts where other animes would end, I would say, right? What's your
Yes,
reaction to it?
yes, it is the well, it is this only hits you in retrospect, but it is a sort of wish fulfillment, yeah?
Hmm.
Because typically you watch, I don't know, a movie, a series, a play, or an anime, and let's suppose that it ends in a climax, and it is fantastic. But sometimes you are often you get to wonder, well, what if it continued? What if this arc that had a beginning and a middle and an end actually like continued and continued not in a super climactic manner, but actually continued more like real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you watch certain series, it's like the way they keep the viewers interested is by rising the stakes or like making the stakes higher and higher. But then the price that you pay for doing that is that, I mean, the sequels perhaps never match the originality or freshness of the first one, and then they get very repetitive.
Yeah, I think Dragon Ball is a great example of that. After the first two greatest evils in the whole universe, they keep making more and more of those, and it's just the same all the time. Now, I have a little thought that maybe it is a little bit like lives, our lives, because the greatest evil in Frieren is defeated right before the series starts. And we live in the kind of the same world, I'd say, where the greatest evil, death, has been defeated by Christ already. And we live in an after party of that. Enjoying the world that is saved in a way, or that at least we have this chance to be saved when we can avoid this great evil now, right?
Actually, that's a great point. It builds a little bit your case also for this work being uh, Christian without knowing it, or more Christian than it dares to believe, because after the resurrection, right, the disciples go and preach the gospel, and they always preach the gospel with a short notice, as in, look, the Lord is gonna come. He said John wasn't gonna die before he saw him descend from the clouds to judge the world, you know. So it's like the time of the resurrection is coming up, it's coming up. You need to make up your mind, etc. And then what might have been in the minds of some just decades, if not years, if not
Months.
days,
Yeah,
right? And ends up becoming a couple thousand years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it ends up becoming a long period of time, a long period of waiting for what is certain and unavoidable, but also takes quite a bit of time. Um, I have this idea that God is Colombian, and I keep hitting people with that. And I mean, at the very least, I would say he is taking time, a bit of time before the second coming. And though, again, when is it coming? It could be tonight, my friend, for all I know. Yeah, it could be tonight, viewers. Yeah. But then the situation of those who leave the faith is to learn to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And Frieren, I guess it's a good image, or it's a good metaphor for what it means to wait and remain human through the waiting, remain human. It takes a bit of an elf to to realize how we can bear with time, just as it takes a hobbit to kind of discover how we can best manage power, or how we can best bear the burden of power. So I was thinking this, just let me segue into something interesting here. When you ask literature experts what is the greatest novel written in the 20th century, they will skip 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, my countryman, and they will just go on and say, look, it's James Joyce Ulysses, that's it. Okay, Marcel Proust was also good, and Virginia Woolf, third place, but James Joyce Ulysses is the best. Yeah. And then if you're lucky enough or stubborn enough or something else to be able to read through Ulysses, I don't know if you might quite accede. You will admit that it is a very complicated, rich, groundbreaking work, uh, but it's not necessarily going to be what grabs everybody's attention and keeps it in a sustained manner. Whereas if you, Peter Kreeft was the one making this excellent point, by the way. If you look at the Amazon list for the top 100 books of the 20th century, the first one is going to be Lord of the Rings.
Of course.
And so for the ears of some English literature scholars, this may sound like a crime. Like, how is it that something so less than spectacular like the Lord of the Rings could be number one in popularity? It's again the old discussion between great works of art versus crowd pleasers and bestsellers.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, according to Kreeft, and again, I think he makes an excellent point. Actually, in this case, not the scholars, but perhaps the regular people know best.
Mm-hmm.
There's something absolutely amazing about The Lord of the Rings. It is easily the most Catholic novel of the 20th century. Again, a novel that did not aim to be Catholic, but became one by virtue of entertaining a certain literary truth, right? For which seemingly everything else was built, an entire universe of fantasy. And the same, I think, could happen here. I don't know for how long Frieren will remain atop of the My Anime list for, the experts' top award, but like it surpasses everything else. And if you watch Frieren, first time viewer, you might feel like, wow, what is this deal? This is slow pace, slow burn. Okay, maybe interesting, but it sounds so anticlimactic, and yet
Yeah.
it is up there. And again, I don't think that the producers or the writers themselves were doing this with a Catholic agenda, but because in a way they were perceiving a higher truth. Yeah. that was clearly guiding their writing, I think that the work becomes Catholic in that sense. It's like Saint Justin Martyr, the patron saint of philosophers, put it. He says, if it is true, it is Christian.
Mhm.
That's an interesting motto. If it is true, it is Christian. Of would say
That's
in
very,
faith, if it's Christian, it is true. But
yeah.
but but the other way around is like if it is true, yeah, it's got to be Christian. How? We don't know. How is it that Frieren manages to be Christian? I would say because it aims at some truth, and therefore it gives us a bit more work to think what the truth is. Yeah. However, if I can bring this to a nice conclusion point, uh, whereas The Lord of the Rings is not really a modernist work, I wouldn't call it a modernist work. It doesn't really fiddle with time structures, stream of consciousness. It doesn't get too complicated in that sense. Um, Frieren is enough of a modernist work, right? Because it begins exactly like this, right at the point where perhaps the main story has ended, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is the aftermath of that, and so it is kind of anticlimactic, but at the same time, by choosing this strategy to tell us what came from that great defeat, yeah, um, it it becomes deep. It avoids the flatness that you get in so much of the rest of anime. Um, so just right, it's not as showy as One Punch Man, but that's what makes Frieren so good. Like it doesn't have to be showy. Even though One Punch Man is ironizes itself quite a bit too, but Frieren is like it's not going to just give you that, just action, real, you know, time and time again. Like sometimes even the action sequences are extraordinarily brief and they are treated as if they are like the least important part of the story. The story is not building up to them.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, this so much of Japanese animation is like silly. And okay, you may have your favorite high school anime, right? It's still like those
Yeah.
are kind of silly problems. And Frieren, what does it do? It says, uh, I'm not gonna become fully silly. No, I'm just gonna do slice of life right. I'm gonna make even the quotidian still interesting,
Mm.
still kind of spiritually enriching. It's not going to descend into full silliness, even though Stark sometimes does come across as a bit of a silly guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like what can you do? The Fern is so awesome, right?
Right.
That basically he has to shrink a little bit to accommodate for the force of nature that is Fern. And in any case, I think that Frieren manages to create a great deal of meaning by um, putting on hold so much of the common tropes that guide most of the popular and easy consumption anime. So it really makes the best case by asking you to look for something a little bit deeper.
It's
Well,
it's it's such an interesting mixture of breaking some tropes while quite bluntly following others, I'd say, because it breaks the trope of for example, the classical hero's journey, let's say. Frieren does not become stronger over time in terms of her, prowess, battle prowess or whatever, and she doesn't have to overcome kind of a great evil that is waiting for her to face. Um, but at the same time, good is good and evil is evil in this series, which seems to be like a rare thing these days, rare thing. Um, and it somehow works. it somehow works. So in this way, I would say that the series is rather than trying to portray, all the grayness of life and how nothing is ever fully black or white in life, it plays
Hmm.
the like the other fiddle here of being so symbolic that is meaningful, that makes it meaningful to watch it because it informs you about the truth behind the all the grayness that we see, that we cannot, kind of make sense of.
Yes. No, you hit a point there. That too makes the anime fantastic. It's like there's good and evil, and usually the ones who are good are entirely right about how bad the evil ones are.
Hmm.
They are the ones who have no idea how, in a way, how bad or poor they are, in their pridefulness, in their puffness, in their feeling of superiority, right? So in that, not to spoil it too much for those who are only starting to watch it, but in that episode where Frieren and her companions are stuck in this city that is trying to establish a parlay with some devils that have been trying to enter into the city, but have been repelled successfully. Yeah, they begin to speak to the devil, right? To these devils, and believe that maybe there could be like a common reason. And then Frieren says, no, you don't speak to devils because there's only one reason for which they're speaking, and that is to deceive you. It's just as simple as that. They are not even going to fake or feign uh, being good, or better, if they do it, they will undeniably and truly do what you always knew they were trying to do all along. Yeah. So there's no deception about it then. And how these devils themselves are portrayed is so compelling too, because each of them is de-romanticized somehow.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like none of them really make it to a romantic hero. Like none of them is like a Miltonian Satan.
Yeah.
No, they are all flat in a fundamental sense.
Hmm.
They're all stupid in a fundamental sense, right? So the first one who thinks that it is very easy to try to attack Frieren, I mean, it turns his back towards her. It's like it's very stupid. He's so overconfident. And then the girl that only imitates, right? Only copies or apes and thinks that that's enough actually makes her entirely vulnerable. Um, and then the main devil in the city, right? Again, he thinks that because the magic of Frieren is so simple, therefore he has the upper hand when sometimes simple is better, as in much, much better.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, I'm going too far into the details. I hope
No, no,
the
because I was asked
you,
to ask you this question about the representation of evil in Frieren. How it is it consistent? Does it make sense, and is it related to the evil in the world? What would you say to that? Is
I
it like
think
one to one?
so. It's pretty much one to one. So okay, the words of Hannah Arendt have been quoted many times, but they turn out to be true, right? In literature, in fantasy, or in artistry, it is very easy to romanticize evil and to criticize the good as flat, boring, not stimulating. Yeah, but in reality, evil is not just vulgar; it is banal.
Hmm.
It is. flat, it is uncreative, it is boring, it is torturing. Um, Hannah Arendt also had the wonderful point that evil begins somehow in speech, that the problem of Eichmann actually was or started with the quality of his thoughts, that it was flat, that his language was not that of a great evil genius, but that of a simple salaryman, someone who could not really think like beyond certain mm, uh, commercial, like like mottos or lemmas. I'm missing the word. Like he could not think in a deep manner. He just thought in a flat manner because also his language was extraordinarily flat. There's just banality through and through. Well, that same point is repeated with with the evil ones, with the devils in or the demons in Frieren. They, if they're gonna talk, it's not to share but to deceive, and what they say has it's no reality. I mean, it can still be very deceitful, but it is very corroding. Like, okay, a very important image is that young devil, that small devil that just said mom,
Yeah.
and then immediately appealed to the sense of pity of humans, and then they began playing with her or thinking that she could be humanized somehow because they, she seemed like an orphan, right? And it turns out that even she herself had never had any such genuine feelings whatsoever. She was just befuddled by how, with just the saying of one word, she could win people's favors, and their guards or defenses would be lowered, right? It's like it's the complete twisting or turning around of speech, and it's flattening, yeah, that made that and a few other portrayals of evil in Frieren, um, yeah, convincing.
Okay, but there's one curious thing over there. When Flamme is giving, so Frieren's master is giving that lesson to Frieren, she says that so the demons are always deceptive and they always try to deceive us, and so we have to be even more deceptive towards them. And a friend asked me like, how is this Christian if it if you train yourself to be deceptive? What would you say to that?
Wow. Okay. Excellent question. Um, I have a nerdy thought in response. I mean, let's do it. Why not? There, but it requires reference to another work of fiction
Sure.
called Dante's Divine Comedy. So, as Dante the Pilgrim goes further down the circles of hell, his behavior towards the souls of the damned clearly changes.
Hmm.
You, in the upper crust, he might have been more prone to pity,
Hmm.
whereas in the lower crust, he actually has more rage and anger at the souls of the damned. And towards the very bottom, when he's walking on this lake of ice that has buried uh, traitors, he runs upon one, what's his name? Fra Albino, or I think that's his name, or Alberiego, Fra Alberiego. But I'll have to go back and check it out. But the neat thing is this: he tells the soul of that damned person, um, you tell me how you ended up here, and I will remove some of the eyes from your eye sockets. And then this fra or friar tells him of how he invited the family of his enemy over for a meal, and then he killed them all around the meal table, right? Like just a treacherous, irrational act of betrayal. And uh, and then Dante the Pilgrim says, "No, it serves you well where you are right now. So I'm going to default on my earlier word, or like I'm gonna go against my word, and I'm not gonna remove the 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 eyes from your eyes." Okay, so what happened there is similar to what happens here, namely, um, you should only have acts of mercy towards those who can receive those acts of mercy, right? Or like in the sense that for a soul that can still be saved, an act of mercy can be salutary. But for a soul of the damned, actually not mercy, but justice, and sometimes even the deprivation of a desire is the rightful punishment for it, right? Like the failure to satisfy a desire is the very description of a soul in hell. So, okay, I don't know if I'll be able to justify deceiving the devil as the right way of relating to him, but actually that is, in a certain sense, a Christian possibility, namely that we are not we do not become more virtuous or greater by showing kindness or mercy or compassion or truthfulness to an evil actor, but actually an evil actor beyond the point of redemption. But actually, it is the opposite, right? It is by fighting that one, by keeping him away from us, by um, foiling its means, right? By effectively trying to prevent its action, that we prevail over it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
But can we resort to deceit, just as they do? That's the question here. Can we?
well, okay. So
Yeah,
let's see how Frieren undergoes deceit. She manages to train her mana, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It will not show itself forth. So she learns to conceal her mana, and that indeed leads her to, I mean, gives her a huge advantage. Yeah, a
Mm,
huge advantage over those evil actors. Well, um, learning to conceal is not the same as to actively deceiving,
mhm,
right? It's um like you are in a way responsible for what you tell and the truth of what you tell, yeah, but you are not responsible for another actor coming to the right
mhm,
conclusion.
mhm. So when
Yeah,
the demon visits her in the prison, she doesn't try to tell him that she's so weak that she's afraid. She tells him straight away that, look, I'm stronger than your master, right? Like she is being truthful with him. He just doesn't believe that because like it being non being not so being modest, let's say, or or being humble is beyond his imagination, beyond his
right,
understanding, right? So the
exactly.
her mana being so low, just of out of not trying to not boast by showing how strong you are, is just beyond his understanding. So that's why he wouldn't believe her. But she's quite honest with him, telling him how it is and how he's stepping into a dangerous situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's almost like a question of how you deal with stupidity. Sometimes it is by telling the truth and knowing that the other person will still not be able to make the right or draw the right conclusions. It's like that story when Saint Francis he sees a captive running away from someone who wants to execute him and goes one way, and then the executor comes to Saint Francis and asks, "Where did the prisoner go?" And Saint Francis, with the head, points in one direction in a way, but under the cassock with the index finger, he points in the other direction. Yeah. And so he ends up like not telling a lie, not quite, just in a way he did what he should have done, namely give some information, but not guarantee
Concealed truth. Yeah.
that the other person will use what is being told in a merciless fashion. Yeah?
Mm.
So so in a way, that's what seems to be going on in that confrontation between Frieren and the demon that carries the scales. I
Mm.
mean,
Aura.
Frieren
Yeah.
never says that her mana is small. I mean, the demon just makes a conclusion on the basis of what she can detect, and then right as the sources of mana are being put on the scales, she sort of like says, well, but I've been training for these many years and it's twice or three times more than what you have. It's like she tells the truth, but of course she tells it at the time when the demon still has to follow through the consequences of her actions, right? And these cannot be stopped anymore.
Mhm.
So uh, I don't think that there's much of a moral ambiguity or a moral problem about not telling the truth always or not being merciful towards souls that are past the usefulness or the benefit of mercy, right?
Mhm.
So, in typical Catholic tradition, you love the sin and you know,
I should cut that out. I
I'll
won't.
try again. You love the sinner and you hate the sin.
That's right.
Well, I mean, so you hate the sin, yeah?
Mhm.
Like you go to war against the sin.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, no, that's my 2 cents on that. I think that she's now it gets a bit more sophisticated towards the very end of this thing. Yeah, the very end of Frieren. That's really
We can spoil because we hope
this
everyone
one
watched it already.
because it right like at the very end you think, oh my gosh, the writers have gotten tired. This is becoming like another shonen, right? Like there's gonna be like 3 trials for Frieren to become a first-rate mage, and of course she's going to do it like has everything like flying colors, right? And it turns out that that's not the case. Each of these trials is curiously made, right? In the first one, the first two have a lot to do with team coordination, yeah, and especially the second one, which makes the very nice point that you cannot quite fight your shadow on your own, but you need to fight your shadow, right?
Mhm.
So the hero is not on a solo journey. He really needs to work, even with those who are not on his level, because without them, he or she won't be able to prevail. But the third trial, when Frieren has to dialogue with the famous sage elf, also a girl, right? Who is older than she is and far wiser than she is. And when we get to that trial, it's so anticlimactic because it doesn't involve any physical battle whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
all about internal mental dispositions. So that that final trial, what it's is in it, we have Frieren, who is still an image of innocence, despite her age and despite all that she has experienced, like an image of innocence uh, that is then confronted with also a very ancient image of experience, right?
Mhm.
Um, so we have the wisdom of innocence versus the wisdom of experience, and the wisdom of experience is more utilitarian. It is not romantic in any way about magic. It is very much about combat and kind of will to power. Yeah, that that final person is combative in a manner of will to power. Uh, so the way that Frieden fails, I mean, she has to fail that test. Yeah, is by remaining herself.
Mhm.
And it doesn't hurt her to lose that test, even though she deserves to be a first class mage.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. So,
Perfect.
so you say that Frieren remains innocent and doesn't go through this, from innocence to experience. Now, so she kind of, so we are, a pilgrim church, a church that is on the way, and as we've been for 2,000 years, going to some conclusion after the great evil has been defeated. And she kind of condenses all
Wow.
that to one person, right? Because she's been around for over 1,000 years, probably. And
She's
it
a
yeah,
Yeah, she's like it's like when this priest says, "Oh, I just wish I was being petted by an old woman," and then she says, "Well, I'm actually older,
yeah,
one of the oldest women that's been around, but she looks so young." Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
that's the
so
bride of Christ.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. So that seems to be our mission as a church, as the church as well, to remain innocent and the bride of Christ, the virgin bride of Christ. But but what about her? So what's because she is on some kind of a pilgrimage, on some kind of a hero's journey, let's say, even though the great evil has been defeated, there is still evil in the world. We manage that, but like, where is she going? How is she changing? What's the aim of that journey? And like, how does she remain so, you know, innocent and youthful despite um, this this experience that she's had, which I find it really beautiful how Frieren displays, being ancient and curious about the world and life at the same time. But why and how does it happen? And is it not true that she actually develops that rather than conserve that over the that journey?
that's a truckload of questions, but I think so. I think an important key. I think you're hinting it rightly. An important key to her character is actually her name, Frieren, which means to freeze
Hmm.
uh, in German. Gosh, Japanese just love German names,
Germany,
don't
yeah.
they? Yeah, like stark or übel or like this and that. Gosh, it's all over the place. Um, but but you're right. What at first seems like being distanced or unconcerned about temporal affairs because she has just so much time available.
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, becomes a structure of concern, right? It's almost like the real arch of Frieren is how she fights this coldness that can get to you because of excess of time and becomes reconnected um, with with people. It's almost like instead of forfeiting the chance of loving, because all the objects of her love will die in the blink of an eye, she learns to recommit herself to the now,
Hmm.
those who are in the now, and she chooses to love them, even though she knows better than they do that life is fleeting, that time is fleeting, and that their future is in no wise guaranteed. Yeah, so for instance, she goes from refusing at all costs to take someone like Frieren under her tutorship. She moves from that refusal to actually embracing her as a friend, as a child, right? That as one of her own children, even though, yeah, she's a virgin, she's not going to consort, like she's not going to become a biological mother. At least that doesn't seem to be in the cards.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. And it's almost like the way that she retains that character is by keeping the domestic situation. It's like, okay, so how do you stay uh, human and humane while bearing the burden of time? It has to do with domesticity. You need something like a domestic structure that grounds you. So this work, strange to say, is very pro-life and pro-family,
Hmm.
right? If you don't have family, like you're just left with so much time to pursue your own interest. And what happens is that life passes by you actually, because you cannot retain or keep that overabundance of personal life and personal interests. Whereas when you share life with descendants, you have a family, or you have acquired something like a domestic situation, then you have you have a communal structure that actually gives you something like not only a communal past and a shared memory, but also a future that you can be excited about, because it is not just about you, it's about us, right? It goes beyond yourself.
Hmm.
So anyhow, I don't know if that is going to, if that is all there is to be said about Frieren's innocence, or how she goes from just being distant and aloof because she can, right, to being concerned. But yeah, I have, for instance, something else to piggyback onto that. I think uh, Frieren could be compared a little bit to, okay, and this is another nerdy reference. It could be compared to the Aeneid, to Virgil's epic The Aeneid, because the Aeneid also happens in the aftermath of the Great War of Troy, right?
Right.
And so Aeneas is on a journey, and actually he's on a journey to that place in the underworld where he's gonna have the chance to speak with his beloved dead, including his beloved father.
Oh, yes.
Now, in order to get there, uh, he has to, well, okay, I'm not going to draw 100 comparisons between the Aeneid and Frieren, but I'm going to say that Aeneas is something of a hero of the heart. Like he's being given a mission that is not to his liking, is not of his choosing. He has to make all sorts of sacrifices for the sake of a Rome that he has never seen. Yeah, and he's he's living as the vanquished one because he was a Trojan, and so one of the few survivors of Troy.
Mhm.
but who has been promised that, his descendants, so not he himself, but his descendants will see a promised land of sorts. So what he has to do is something like keep keep the past in his mind, keep his heritage, but also labor for a kingdom that he has not seen. Um, okay, so I want to unpack that a little bit more. He cannot let his his memory become nostalgia, right? Or poison him, because then he could not go forwards when his mission is to go forwards.
Yeah.
Similarly with Frieren, um, the way that she remembers is not obsessive, compulsive, or traumatic.
Hmm.
It's not a romantic way of remembering either. No, it is more like she encounters her memories going forwards. Like
Hmm.
she runs into something that spontaneously brings back to her that moment in the past, and it sort of discloses for her its meaning and beauty. Yeah. So it is difficult to be surprised by the past, right? Because in a way, the past already happened. It's a fait accompli, and you were there to witness it. So you are supposed to already know it. It's very difficult for memory to surprise you unless um, you have become an alien to your memories. 20th century psychologists kind of like have a ball dealing with that process of self-alienation that precedes this reconnecting of yourself or retrieving of yourself through your memories. But to the point here, Frieden can remain who she is because of how she chooses to remember. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like she's open to being surprised by her memories, or like she's in a way doing certain things because she has done them in the past, right? Or because she wants to reconnect with people in the past, but her memory, rather than being forced, is just beautifully prompted. And again, is like almost the fruits of the past are captured by going forwards. Yeah, well, okay. Let's see. Does that make sense a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah. So that's really interesting that somehow they managed to avoid making her a character that lives in the past in a way, even though we kind of have those retrospections time and time again. There is action and she lives in the present, right? And they are just there, those memories, and they're she kind of rediscovers them, but it's not that she is, clinging to them in a unhealthy manner.
Correct. And it reconnects her with something or someone in the present, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so let's say that she understands something about the very like kind uh, affection that the hero who defeated the evil king, right? The kind of affection that this hero had for her. Yeah, she's able to remember that, but she does that as she, for instance, sees the affection that emerges between these two very unequal and uneven characters, Stark and
yeah,
Fern.
yeah, yeah.
So in a way, her memory doesn't displace her from the present. It manages the trick of reconnecting her to present. And again, it's not like it makes her wish she had been otherwise, even though she regrets having taken her friend's life for granted. Yeah.
Hmm.
But but she clearly moves on. Yeah. Um, yeah. There's more. I have another literary interconnection here
Okay.
before we all turn into pumpkins and go to bed. Okay. So Jorge Luis Borges. the Argentinian writer, the one who wrote Ficciones, this collection of tales that are quite profound, and a few other collections of tales as well. He wrote this story called El Inmortal, the Immortal One.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, well, to spoil it a little bit, it's about a man's obsession for finding the mysterious land of the immortals,
Mm-hmm.
the ones who don't die, the people who have drunk from the river that have turned them into immortals. And so he finds this land, he runs into the immortals, which include several of the greats in the past, including Homer. But he realizes that immortality has actually dehumanized all of these greats.
Yeah.
They become not romantic monsters, but actually they have become like primitives, like
Mm-hmm.
aboriginals. They are unkempt. They don't do anything with themselves or for themselves. They seem to live for the most basic needs. They don't communicate. They don't do anything. Um, and so in that story, we are given the sense that if we remain eternal as we are in the present,
Mm-hmm.
this eternity would actually dehumanize us. That, all things being equal, um, if we were made eternal as we currently are, then actually we will very likely become condemned in hell, right? Because we are so imperfect, and our imperfections are just so bothersome to us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if we are giving an eternity as we are right now, this eternity would poison us. Yeah, so that's why the Catholic Church also rightly preaches that the light of grace has to make our souls in the afterlife, has to make our souls capable of receiving the divine essence, because otherwise also, I mean, not only will we not be able to face God in heaven, receive his essence in our intellect, but again, we will not do anything that is actually worth doing for all eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my students, the few things that are really worth doing for eternity and that never get boring are contemplation, um,
An
praise,
angel, or yeah.
and love, right? Like 10 out of 10 saints can't wait to die and to go to heaven. But in order to do even these activities, their souls are perfected, right? So immortality without beatification is unbearable. People would ask to die
Mm-hmm.
rather than be made eternal as they currently are. And overabundance of time risks dehumanizing us.
Mm-hmm.
But not so if you are an angel, right? And in many ways, Frieren is just like that. She's an angel in the way that she um, lives and also deals with the everyday, the commonplace, right? It's like she finds the commonplace kind of awesome. Um, I mean, she sticks to her habits. She's not even trying to perfect herself or perfect them anymore. She
Mm-hmm.
has embraced who she is. She always falls for the same traps, but she doesn't beat herself too hardly. She just doesn't take herself too seriously, right? Instead, she's just open um, to receiving what the present has to give her as a gift, right? It's no longer a mission that she has to accomplish as such. No, it is like a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And whether she's promoted to a first class wizard or not, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter in a way, because she's just open to receive what is being offered to her this day. Yeah. So that's an interesting proposal. I wonder if it is entirely good or fitting, right? That in order to stay sane, at a time when we have so much time in our hands, yeah,
Yeah.
we have to be open to the gift of the simple life. It's almost like this is a an anime for old people. Japan has the longest longevity in the world, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
True.
Japanese people like last a very long time. And but how can they bear it without being dehumanized?
Hmm.
Well, how can you even bear solitude in a way without being dehumanized? Well, by still trying to appreciate the simple, to relish the simple.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
not to
love
run
I love the
because
scene. I love the scene, after the first test for the first class mage,
Mhm.
after, being posed against one another, fighting kind of against one another, those people, meet up in a restaurant or in a pub of sorts, and they just sit there and chat and talk in a normal way, in a almost like friendly manner, which is just so unlike any epic adventure that that you would see. But you can see how much different it is to have an opponent, like a temporal opponent, and to be faced with a demon, which is like a two totally different fights that you're in. And the simplicity of that scene, where it's just, them sitting and nothing is really happening. They just sit and drink. And somehow I felt like, okay, that was the very moment I felt I love that anime. Somehow I don't understand why I do. I don't really know why this scene is so profound and so great. But at the same time, like, this was the very scene that made me think, okay, this is the thing. Where they fought a minute ago, life and death situation almost, and now they can sit and just talk about that. So that was rather crazy.
it's
Um,
almost like sacramental communion.
yeah, that's right. So, we have our problems here as humans as well, but eventually we'll all be rejoined and rejoice in communion. That's right. Um, you mentioned here. I want to go on a little tangent here. You mentioned the hero defeating the great evil, and there's a tiny, tiny detail in one of the early episodes where we find out, and that's a spoiler warning again, when we find out that he wasn't able to pull the sword out of the rock, which is again a great subversion of a really classical
Yeah.
trope, but in a way that it just works. Because you can subvert anything, but you can subvert it in a way that it works or that it doesn't work. And here
Yeah.
it
You
just
can
works
keep a
so
banana
nicely.
against the wall, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not the version that really makes me happy. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So we can see that there's again humility in Himmel, accepting that he is not, yeah, like a chosen one, but he's still he understands his place in the world. He understands his place in the whole structure of being, but he's still going to follow the code that makes him the way he is, and that in turn makes him the hero that defeats the
Perfect.
greatest evil, right?
Yes. So it's like the fact that not everything goes your way or that certain plans don't come to fruition as planned doesn't yet take away from you the responsibility to live out your calling,
Yeah,
right? So the real temptation would have been, okay, I have a confirmation and then I'm the hero, but then right, it's almost like, well, what's it's a preordained destiny. So it doesn't seem like much of a choice, doesn't seem to have much of a merit. Now, so instead of pulling out the sword, the fact that he was unable to, right? If he had been superstitious, he could have thought, oh well, then that means I'm not the hero, or I don't have to be the hero now. I can just go back to where I was, and who knows when this great evil is going to be eradicated.
Hmm. Hmm.
But instead of either of those, there's this failure that becomes super productive, namely the one which teaches you that though things are not quite going as expected, or though you are not yet worthy to receive that
Hmm.
sword, it is still you who has the responsibility. It is still you who has the calling
Hmm.
to do something to do something heroic, not because of who you are, but almost in spite of who you are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
he
so
carries around that fake copy of that very sword, and this is the sword that he defeats the Demon King with, right? So
that's
this
elegant.
gets us
Yes.
back to C.S. Lewis, let's say, and his idea about faking until you make it, right?
Yes. Yes. Whatever is worth doing is worth doing badly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
And you can still be a hero. It's just like, yeah, you can still be a saint despite being a sinner, right?
Hmm.
Uh, it's like uh, Saint Teresa of Lisieux also puts it, right? God honors most not the soul to whom he has given the most, but the soul from whom he expects the most.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. So sometimes you face denials, you face things not going your way, but and this is not to sound romantic, but you may still it may still be a true calling, right? It may not be pointless. It might still be the case that God is not asking something impossible of you. No, it may be that he's asking something entirely possible of you if you take up the responsibility, right? Despite all the setbacks, um, and all the surprises. Gosh, that's a really good scene and a very, very important, yeah, chapter for these folks.
All right.
Uh,
So, yeah.
no, go for it.
No, no, no. What do you have to say?
Well, I mean, at some point I want to segue and talk about magic
Yeah,
because
let's do it.
that too is its own subtopic here. Yeah,
Yep.
and it's a very interesting subtopic because again, how is it that magic doesn't corrupt Frieren? So how is it that she doesn't become like a dangerous and prideful woman like the elf that she meets at the end of the
You.
series that have been running so far?
Yeah.
Um, well, okay, and in a way, it's by treating magic like a low-level technology, right? So um, by doing rather entirely harmless things with magic.
Hmm.
So her favorite spell is one that creates flowers
Hmm.
gratuitously for no reason, and this seems so banal, but it's actually that harmless attitude in relation to magic, like love for magic itself, but also for like the nice little things that it does and nothing more. That's what in a way keeps her and also Fern sane, right?
Yeah.
Anchored. Like Fern could have been like eaten up by the ambition of being taken under the promotion of the wise but dangerous elf woman at the end, right? The greatest mage that ever lived. And that's the real test, right? Like,
Hmm.
will you go against yourself? Will you actually become someone that you are not just because you're trying to live out to some like worldly hope or dream or expectation? And the answer is that you will not lose yourself. You will not lose yourself on condition that you are still aiming at small things, or like you are still using great power kind of like for the smaller things rather than just for the bigger things.
Hmm.
Again, so anticlimactic, right? Ask
Exactly.
any spell in the world and ask for a spell that makes your clothing clean. Yeah. Um, it's almost like it is the same as the problem with technology, right?
Yeah.
Let's suppose that, I mean, what is the danger of technology? The danger of technology is with the more dangerous technologies, right?
Right. Right.
Like, let's suppose that we get lost in pursuing the fastest supersonic rocket, yeah, the greatest bomb, the most destructive virus, etc., right? The greatest weapons, yeah. Um, that's when technology becomes a curse. Like you become the same as your enemy. You lose yourself.
Hmm.
Uh, it is otherwise when what you expect from technology or what you desire from technology is being spared a little pain, right? It is something small. So imagine that for instance, I mean, let's talk about dangerous technologies. AI,
Hmm.
right, could be replacing so many jobs. It seems to save lots of trouble, but it also does come with quite a few drawbacks, and it is expected to change the way we live, the change that we present ourselves. Like it is going to be cataclysmic, okay? Many people say that of AI. Many movies have already thematized that, right?
And they
And I'm
live in our imagination. Those movies kind of shape
yeah,
our view on that as well. Yeah.
Terminator,
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone remembers that.
Matrix, like whatever. Okay, but so you're not going to destroy AI. It's there. You are not going to destroy the internet. It's there. You don't quite have a choice to live with or without it. I mean, I guess you could go Amish.
But it's
Not
still in the
everybody
world that you live in. Like,
is still in the world that you live in. So um, you can either close your eyes and believe that it's not going to hurt you, when in point of fact it is going to bite you in the back,
hmm.
or you can limit yourself in your usage of it. Kind of a little bit like um, Frieren and Fern control their mana, right? So actually just like reduce the way that you use it, and so use it only for like something very simple, nothing grand. Okay, I'll give you an example you're gonna love. I'm currently editing with your wife, as you know, a book. Yeah. Um, if I was a master criminal and I had an AI, of course, I would have the AI write the article in my stead. Wouldn't that be um, like a great time saver? Time saver. But wouldn't I lose myself in doing that? Isn't that a temptation that I have to overcome? Maybe the way to overcome it is not by saying, okay, I'm not going to have the AI write my article, but I'm going to have the AI um, to get the index for our book, because
Yeah.
that's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's enough if we use an awesome technology for something little, right?
Hmm.
Because at least we are not paying the highest price, namely our humanity.
Hmm.
So the way that we stay human with technology is pretty much the same way that Frieren remains an angelic elf with magic.
Hmm.
Namely, you don't you don't hoard it for the sake of becoming more dangerous or getting away with more and more and more stuff. No, you study it for its own sake, but you actually, so the way that we would do pure science and also applied science and also learn about technologies, but really in the hope that they would help us with some tasks that are menial. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank God for that brilliant technology called the dishwasher.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank God for that awesome technology called the ironing board. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
right.
I hear the crickets there. Okay, and now and then, maybe you can still kick butt, of course, as
Yeah,
Frieren does.
yeah.
Now
But
and
only
then,
with the simplest spells, right? Nothing too flashy,
yeah, that
just the
that
most
too.
basic
Like,
spells. Yeah.
well, so that's for instance one point in which Frieren actually matches One Punch Man, the second season, which is not as greatly loved as the first season. I mean, though, again, kids, it's not high art. One Punch Man, I don't know, it's not high art, but there's this one phrase that the titular character, whose name I don't remember, says, namely, you don't have to get stronger.
Hmm.
You don't have to get stronger. Like, what's wrong with all these other people is that they are too much infatuated with more power, more money, more of this and more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with this. You don't have to get stronger. You just, yeah, have to preserve yourself. Do not lose yourself. Yeah, it's not a good deal.
And I think this is a great way to wrap it all up and finish our
Right,
conversation.
because we need sleep. Yeah, we need the technology for sleep rather than the technology that keeps us away from sleep. And
We need to keep it in check and we need to remain ourselves.
good call.
Thank you very much for that.
Kuba,
And
thank you very much for the invite and for the suggestion.
and
Yeah.
until next great anime comes our way.
Wow. Maybe a few years are gonna pass by before we see something like
Yep.
we are. Isn't it amazing? It's even better ranked. It's more popular than like Attack on Titan and other like showy things that actually went the other way, right? Like how
Yep.
much crazier can we get? And you're
It
like,
sure
no,
is. It's
it's
amazing. I don't really understand it, but somehow it clicks. It clicks with the people and it clicks with what we need right now, it seems, in the world. Yeah.
the simplicity of real life. Okay, on that note,
Yep. Thank
thank
you.
you very much. The magic of
Bye.
every day. All righty. Ciao, ciao.